Equus ferus caballus, the horse, one of the most majestic beasts ever to be domesticated by man. Here in the Manawatu region of New Zealand, these animals live in abundance. In this series, I will travel on a fantastic journey through the life of a horse. Last week, we saw how the mighty fall when Tennis Ball sustained an horrific injury. This week, we shall follow his slow recovery and return to full health. In this programme, I shall interview a series of experts. Dr. Turner, what are the different types of wound a horse can sustain?
There are 5 main wounds we worry about with a horse. The first one is a clean cut incision. The second is a less uniform tear, often from like a barbed wire fence. The third type is an abrasion, which is like from rubbing from a rope. The fourth type, we have puncture wounds, which are deeper than they are wide. And the fifth type is a contusion, which is where the surface epidermis hasn't been penetrated and they've just got the nice tissue damage underneath, often bleeds into the lower tissues. In Tennis Ball's case here, you can see we have a case of a lesion, which is a nice clean cut. He's showing us right there, which will require a fair bit of treatment, I'd say.
Thank you, Dr.
I forgot what I was meant to say.
That was good enough. So, now that we know what kind of wounds a beast such as this can endure, Grace will explain the 4 stages of wound healing.
Thank you, David. The 4 stages of wound healing. First of all is the inflammation, which is the swelling of the tissue surrounding the wound area. Second of all, we have the debridement, which is the removal of old tissue surrounding the wound area to expose new tissues, which encourage growth. Thirdly, we have the repair stage, where the edges of the wound contract and eventually seal. 4th stage is the maturation of the area surrounding the wound bed.
Thank you, Grace.
Anytime, David.
Now, Callum will enlighten us on the subject of bandaging for this wound.
Here's a horse laceration I reviewed earlier. This is an ideal case for bandaging. Bandages shield the wound from the environment, microbes and foreign material. The bandage absorbs pus and provides external pressure to prevent limb edema. There's generally 3 layers to a bandage. There's initially an absorbent gauze layer, secondly a cotton bandage wrapped spirally and uniformly around the wound to prevent the tourniquet effect, and finally a waterproof protective layer to just shield it from the rain. These are replaced every 1 to 2 days to just aerate it and keep it fresh.
Thank you, Callum. Now, Laurie will talk about suturing in a case such as this.
Well, as you can see, the wound is nice and fresh, which is a good thing, because if it was an old wound, like more than 6 or 12 hours, it would be inadvisable to stitch it because there'd be too much bacteria inside and you'd just be stitching it in. What's that camera for? Yeah, also wounds on the body or face usually do better with stitches because they're not moving around so much. But since his wound is on his leg, it means there's more pressure on it, and yeah, it's more easy for it to burst open because they keep moving around. There are some things you can do to remedy this. Like you could separate the skin from the muscle a little bit to spread the tension over a bigger area, or you could stitch in not a straight line, like in an S shaped, that also spreads the tension over a big area.
Thank you, Laurie. Now, Grace Miller will talk about the most dangerous infection for a horse in Tennis Ball's situation, tetanus.
What's up, David? So, a little bit about tetanus. It's a bacterial disease caused by the bacterium Clostridium tetani, which you can find in places like soil and droppings. It can survive in these places for quite a long time, and it enters the body through wounds, which is why you've got to be careful with old rugby ball here. Horses are particularly susceptible to tetanus. So how can we treat it? Can we treat it at all? Well, if Tennis Ball is not vaccinated, then I'm afraid it's not very good news. Our tetanus toxin attacks the nerves controlling the muscles of the body, leading to worsening muscular stiffness and spasm, and eventually death by respiratory failure. but if detected early, tetanus can be treated. The wound must be cleaned thoroughly, and our volleyball will be administered a dose of antibiotics and probably some tetanus antitoxin as well. That's all, David. Over to you.
Thank you, Grace. So, to treat tennis ball's incision, the group of experts recommends cleaning of contaminants and, due to the fresh nature of the wound, suturing is recommended, followed by bandaging, constant monitoring and frequent reassessment. Join us next week for another spine-tingling episode.
That was awesome, David.
Stop horsing around, Grace.
All this talk has left me hoarse.
I'll get you a little bit of cough syrup for that, my mate, Colin.